webinar has started. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on navigating workforce restructuring in today's landscape. And I'm delighted to have you all join us today. This webinar series that we are continuing today had been started on 8th of March, and this Women Everyday series is an initiative taken by shework.in to celebrate Women's Day not just one day, but to continually celebrate it every day and on every focused aspect. And our wherein our last two episodes of the series were focused more on diversity, equality, and inclusion. So we took up the topics around gender equality, how the female leadership has been grown, and what is the position of female leadership in the organizations. So all these topics were addressed by many good HR leaders that had visited in last two webinars, and some of them were, one was Rahul Bagle, who is an CHRO at Force Motors. Then again, was Manjari Patel. She is an global head HR at Cloud Moyo. Then our very own co-founder, Miss Pooja Bangad. So all these experts were there, and they addressed our audiences with what are the pros and cons, and how the organizational behavior has been changing, and how diversity and inclusion is an aspect of human resource that has been coming into light, and how we can make more people aware about it, and what can be done from each and every leader to be into an unconscious bias state. If they are into, then what are the signs and what are the parameters to be measured. So this was the last context that we were looking at. But now, as we see, today's topic is into workforce restructuring, and I would like to talk some points about workforce restructuring. So, as in, this is an complex process that companies undertake to optimize their workforce for efficiency and effectiveness. And this process can include various strategies. This can include layoffs, furloughs, attrition, as well. It also includes upskilling and reskilling of your employees. And while restructuring can be essential for a company's long-term health, but it can also be challenging and emotionally charged time for employees. So, how, from an human resource point of view, this has been addressed, and from the legal aspect also, how this has been taken toll onto organizations. So, what can be done in such situations, and how much it is important. So, we will be delving around and navigating around all these topics today. And as we all know, that this has become an increasingly relevant and pressing issue in today's business world, because there is a rapid pace of technological advancement and shifting market dynamics also that has impacted the global events. So before we delve into this topic deeper, I would like to introduce our esteemed panel of speakers for today. Each of them bring a wealth of knowledge and expertise to today's conversation. So our first speaker for the day is Miss Sunena Weiss. She is founder and director The Bridge, and she has almost a decade of experience and has been helping organizations to create diverse and inclusive work culture. Welcome to the platform, Sunena.
Thank you, Pooja.
Yeah, very, very welcome. Then again, there is a second speaker for today is Miss Kirti Poddar. She is head HR at Mintify, and she has an extensive experience of over 15 years, and she has her expertise into employer branding as well as building and human resource structure and strategies from scratch. So she will be talking about more employer side, that how this has been impacted, as well as from the employee point of view, that how an organization can address these issues. Welcome to the platform, Kirti.
Thanks, Pooja, and thanks everybody on the panel.
Yeah. And last but not the least, our third speaker for today is Miss Advocate Shreya Kalekar. She's a partner at Uplogic Consulting LLP. She is a legal advisor posh consultant and is an expert into employment law. And as well as she has been training organizations for their behavior. She's an organizational behavior and trainer. So she has been very functional and has been working with many organizations over a period of a decade of experience she has into legal part also. So now that you have met our panel of experts, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all our attendees. So, whether you are an HR professional, a business leader, or someone simply interested in learning more about this topic, we are here to provide valuable insights and practical strategies to support you and your journey into your organizations. And throughout this webinar, we encourage you to actively participate by asking questions, sharing your insights, and engaging in the discussions with our panelists. So, if you have any questions or if you want to talk to our panelists, you could just drop your comments into the chat box of the webinar so that they can address this. And later on, we will be also having a question answer round for the attendees. So you can just ask your questions however you like with the panelists and you can interact with them personally. So let's just start with the discussion for today. So my first question is to Sunena. I would like to route this question towards you. As per the recent report by McKinsey and Company, they have found that only 20% of work transformations are driven primarily by cost reduction. The rest of the workforce restructuring goals have been to include and improving agility, innovation, and customer focus. So, what do you think beyond cost cutting? What are some strategic reasons that companies might consider into workforce restructuring?
Thank you so much to all the participants and thanks for the question. I think cost cutting is the first thing that comes to our mind when we think about workforce restructuring. So, depending on the economic climate or the needs of the company, restructuring may involve reducing the number of employees or changing compensation structures. But there could also be other reasons as well, So, if you see companies may restructure when there is some kind of an organizational change or a technological advancement, as we are seeing with AI now. Even the changes in the market or new industrial regulation comes in. Um, Also, at the time of mergers, there is, we've seen that there is workforce restructuring that happens. So, it's not always cost cutting. And like I said, that's the first thing that probably comes to our mind. But it is when the organization aims to streamline operations, maybe move towards lean, improve productivity, or even relocated resources. All of those could, also result in a restructuring of workforce.
Yeah, I completely agree because there is another angle to this that mostly, first of all, when there is a kind of layoffs or there is certain kind of organizational restructuring, the first thing that comes to our mind is that maybe the companies are cost cutting, and the same has been like we have been seeing that certainly in news also, if we come across that companies are laying off the people, like we have seen that last 2 months of 2024 around 46,000 jobs have been taken from in India. So this was an report which was published recently, and that companies include some top companies like Google, Meta, and into Google and Meta, if you see, there has been an attrition rate of around 6% to 3%. So people, this topic of layoff has become a taboo, but I think so, like you rightly said, that this also has a some kind of light over technological advancements and market shift. So Kirti, what do you think about this? Like, what has been the impact of this emerging technology on the workforce restructuring practices?
Thanks for this question. Emerging technology and workforce are quite interlinked, I have to tell you. Uh, uh, we just have to go back to the history, and we have been living for it. We never had computers. When the computers came in, lot of technology as an advancement happened. We have just got used to it. It's just that back in today's time, when everybody has got used to the technology, and you talk to your own kid, he also needs one tap solution. So today, whether it's Gen Z, whatever zens that you call in, everybody is aware of technology. So technology as advancement is imperative for any organization to grow. When it comes to workforce, it is, we also have identified the set of workforce that where the technology can intervene and can become it more simpler. Today we all need an HRMS system. I'm just taking a very simple example, because thousands of employees, data management, process management cannot be a human intervention anymore. It has to be technology driven. So we need, for which we don't say the human touch will go away. Today we fortunately live in an environment where we are not robots, we are all human beings, and there's an emotions that is attached to us. So there will be a presence of human everywhere. Okay, only the numbers are going to reduce, and that number reduction is also a kind of an insight for us, that either we upscale ourselves to live into the fast growing world, because today what we are using is not the world tomorrow. And it is also about how things are getting obsolete day by day. Same desktop, black color, the heavy desktop, and the black color heavy laptop has got into a sleek laptop, to a tab, to a very smartphone driven organization. So I think things are changing and people are adapting. Thankfully, when it comes to India, we are much younger by age. Our average age of India is around 35 years, rather than any other European or a US nations. So I think we are trending towards it. So I don't see that as a huge impact. But yes, it could impact to certain set of people. But those sets of people, I feel, has also got used to understanding it. I can talk about, there are people who never used to use Excel. Now everybody at least uses Excel. Course as a curriculum in many colleges, Excel knowledge, PPT knowledge has become. I remember my school days, I never had it. Now it is there in the school itself. Look at your own kids. So I think we are moving towards advancement, and we should always look forward. This is not an alarming thing for me. It was earlier, before the COVID time, when this technology started shaping up. But I think COVID also taught us a lot many things, and it also gave us the importance of technology. So everybody adopted technology, so thanks to COVID for it. But so yeah, my submission is that it's not an alarming, it's about how open you are to look forward.
Yeah, I over here, like you mentioned the point about upskilling and reskilling. So it's more important, more than creating a taboo about this topic, more than technological advancements. We can make certain use cases. So there are many companies who are asking their project managers or their senior managers to develop certain kind of use cases into their day-to-day projects that they are working into, so that they can keep an example, and that use cases can be utilized further by other people of the organization or other talent in the organizations. But then here comes the point that while restructuring this part, if you see, there are 5 people working on the same thing. Right now AI or other technologies have reduced it to efficiency of just one person, and the other parts of that process can be automized. So in that case it becomes, that employees have been laid off in last few months. But how can a HR point of view you can address this and you can convey this to the employees while maintaining their morale during restructuring? So if
So
Sunana, you can
restructuring.
explain over this. Yeah, Kiti, you can go ahead,
So
please.
just one point, because this is a quite a closer heart topic to me.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, wherever I've gone, I've done restructuring. So it's a very closer to my heart. Restructuring has never been a great activity. I will call it an activity for any one of us. It is neither for an employee, it's neither for an employer. Employee goes through mindset disbalances, but please understand, when we do this, we go through a multiple disbalances. Hearing employees, hearing the managers, hearing board, hearing everybody, there's a huge pressure on each one of us who's been through this process. Now, there are restructuring in name of technology, which has become hype. I don't know why, and certainly I don't feel so. Second, there's a restructuring because everybody wants to now become a more leaner and flatter organization. Okay, the skills are getting obsolete and people somewhere has not invested in upskilling. It is never a great thing to do, but there are organizations which are helping them to skill, and today world you will not, I can only take the horse to the water to drink, I can't make the horse to drink. So even if there are opportunities for you to do this and you're not doing it, you can't hold the organization accountable. However, uh, best said and done. I think if it is managed with sympathy and empathy, this entire process with all the due diligence that is required, it does not create that much of fuss in the news. Okay, I've done this for 500 in my past to past organization, for another 1,000 in past. Never those two organization has come on papers. It is how do you manage the process, and how closer you you are. There is a human. When I said technology, I also talked about human angle. Are you bringing that human angle on the table when you're doing this difficult process? So are you, even if the person you're laying off, are you standing with him even on that last day to ensure that he's reached home properly? Okay, are you understanding that if he's at certain age bracket that he will not get a job? Are you helping him to get a outplacement? So there are many means that has to be taken care of, and these are all investment from the company. And if you look from board, it is a cost, but these are investment from the long term perspective. If we are able to do this right, that's why I said process right, then there is no news around it. If it is just not a process, it will be there also. We'll have 2% of people who will create a fuss, and that is okay to live with it. And those two people can be anywhere. It can be, or it can be anybody. It can be me, it can be you, anybody.
Yeah.
I'd like to just add something to that. I think Kirti just explained it so beautifully, but I think in my profession, um, I am not HR. HR is a stakeholder for me, so there are different sides that I see. When we talk about laying off, it's an emotion. It's not an action, it's an emotion. So what Kirti said, that it's not just the employee but it's also the employer that takes the hit. And I think over the years, the concept of fairness, equity, equality, those have really come in the picture. We were talking about it earlier also, but maybe not as much as we are talking about now. Not as openly as we are talking about all of these concepts, which may be abstract, but we are talking about it now. So what Kirti said, that she's been doing it, she's done it. Your empathy is required. How the leaders are on board, all of that. It's a collective effort. It's not so easy. So HR often has to bear the brunt for it. But yeah, I think that upskilling that is required, and leaner the organizations are going, these things will happen, and multiple reasons that she discussed. But I feel also because of a lot of these concepts coming into the forefront, people are aware, and like I said, it's an emotional thing. It's not easy to move out of your organization. So that hand holding that Kirti is talking about, till probably till the end, till the employee really moves out of the organization, those things are very important. Probably we were talking about those things earlier, but they are more in the forefront now, and organizations are trying to take care of it.
Yeah. And this has been a scenario where into many organizations, like you talked about. And as we were earlier also talking, that diversity and inclusion is an angle that has been coming up with this part of layoffs too. Because many a times it may happen that a certain group of people have been laid off, but they connect to this angle that because I was a woman, or because we were into that set of people, we got laid off. in my organization, because we were specifically into this region or into this geography. This can be the angles of, after effects of layoffs that you see into, and many people talk about this. So this also has a legal angle to it, because it happens that organizations, while laying off, they need to have certainly a kind of legal expert by their side to understand that what are the laws and what are the requirements, and how they can address this. So I would like to route this question to Shreya to understand that according to the layoffs law, or according to the labor laws, what are the things that we can address or we can do while restructuring the organization?
Yes, thank you, Pooja. So, when we say legal consideration, so it would not be false to state that currently the labor laws is morely on the side of the laborers or the employees. So, having said that, it is very much important for the organizations to understand that which employee of theirs is covered under which type of labor laws. So, as we know, we say that there are about 44 kinds of labor laws which is prevailing in our country right now. So which labor law is applicable to what? Let me give you an example. So if my employee is at a managerial position, then we have to make sure that his contracts are very important and it is quite nicely placed. Why? Because the labor laws are not applicable to it. Of course, the beneficial laws like the PF, ESI, the gratuity, it's applicable to that person. But when it comes to a non-managerial person, then the Industrial Disputes Act 1947, then the Shop and Commercial Establishments Act, which is prevailing in every state, that is applicable. So when it comes to a non-managerial position, we need to make sure what is his nature of work, and accordingly these acts will be applicable. But when we say a managerial person, then yes, his employment contracts and offer letters, it is very important to review the terms of the employment contracts to ensure that they are applicable with the, and they are going with the relevant laws and regulations which are there. And these documents may also contain clauses related to layoffs. Though layoffs and furloughs which are there, they are perfectly defined in the Industrial Disputes Act, but we need to make sure the nature of work, if the person is a manager, not a manager, then what is the notice period the person is going to, it's written in his contract. Then the retrenchment compensation. So under Industrial Disputes Act, mandates payment of retrenchment compensation to employees who have completed 1 year of continuous service. So in the event of retrenchment, so the amount of compensation is calculated based on the employee's tenure and last drawn salary. So all these things are taken into consideration, and while calculation of retrenchment compensation or while layoffs, you need to see the nature of work, if the person is a manager, not a manager.
Okay, and this gets even more complex, I think so, according to the like for global organizations, if you consider, they work in many geographies and into many regions, and every region or every geography has different acts or laws. Like in India, there are certain laws which are into labor laws, but then if you go to US or any another country, over there the laws differ. So into this, while if suppose if you're addressing any global organization, what can be what can be their complexities or what can be their challenges into the legal point of view if they are restructuring their workforce?
Yeah, so let's take an example over here. Okay, so there's a manufacturing company who's a multinational organization who has operations both in United States and it also has in India. So they have decided to streamline its operations due to changing market conditions or financial challenges, or maybe they are like Sunana said, because of mergers and everything happening. So as a part of restructuring plan, the manufacturing company now intends to lay off a significant number of employees. In US, we have the WARN Act, wherein the advance notice requirements are there. So in US, the employer has to make sure a 90 days pre-notice period has to be given. whereas he has to comply the same thing in India. Okay, so in India, a 30 days notice period has to be given in terms of layoffs. Same goes in terms of employee welfare and support as well. The training and development, what the civilians pay, the benefits compensation, whether he is liable to be paid gratuity or if he is not liable to be paid gratuity, all those things has to be considered. So everything depends upon the jurisdiction of the company where it is situated. Like if I am having company in US and in India, I have to make sure that my company is registered in India so that I am registered under the state's Shop and Commercial Establishment Act. So, under such circumstances, we need to make sure that the notice requirements of both the countries have to be followed wherever the employee is located.
Yeah, like you said, there is a period before layoff. If you are addressing any employee, they need to be informed prior 60 days notice or 30 days, or many companies even have 90 days notice earlier if the person is working at the mid managerial level or higher managerial level. So, Kirti, being an HR into an HR domain, what do you think that at this point of view, how do you handle this situation wherein you have to convey the person 3 months prior, because there are certain emotional boundaries also at that point of time that you need to address for a employee or for the talent that you are going to convey this news to. So what is the process? Is there any process that organizations can take this, and how this can be done?
Yeah. So it's a, first of all, Pooja, we need to understand that this process, how are you building this process? It starts right from the day when you have made a decision that you need to do a layoff. So identification of those sets of people is most important. And it is not that one HR person. See, let's understand, we execute the process. As an HR, we are a facilitator and executor of the process. The decision happens between the organizational heads, plus the decision happens between the business heads too. It's a co-joint decision. Now that decision, always my focus has been that it should be owned by the business. Okay, if the it is not owned and it is only led by HR and the organizational heads, that I you call it, to execute it, it becomes a nastier thing, and it then you see all the news around it. So in my past, when we did a kind of a layoff, because we were moving into a more simpler structure and we were getting into omni channel, I the important part was that it first, like, we had this particular discussion among ourselves as a CXOs, that what are we doing and why are we doing? If all of us aligned or not. Till all of us aligned, we never came out of that boardroom. Once that alignment was happened, the entire organization then stood by that we need to have an entire follow slash a plan of outplacements, or you do a compensation setup. So when I say there are, there are roles which can be put on follow for time being, when the person can take a sabbatical or something, and then if when the role comes into picture, it you can look at the person if he's available to come. That's one option which can be clearly taken care of. Second option was, and these are all very role specific. Second options was more about that there are people which were identified from the age and skill set bracket, where we knew that these people will have a difficult in finding a job outside, or there are people who are tenured in the organization and has never made a CV. How do I do the upskilling for them, even by getting an outplacement agency to help them to really set up the interviews, prepare the CV, get the coaching conversation, add the coach. That's one way. The third is like whether it is 1 month, 2 months. We took a call, and it is a hit on the PNL, that we took a call. It will be all 3 months salary. People who have their bonuses due, or anything which was due to the organization. Okay, whether it was bonus or something, is there a way that can be also paid back to them? We looked at more from the sustainability standpoint and emotional angle, that this is a sustainability question. Okay, that how will they survive from tomorrow onwards? That's the tack. The the last thing that became very well for us, and it worked out very well, was setting up the entire counseling services. So we enrolled the counselors. We had the health counselors, mind counselors, and various thematic and counselors who were right across that time when the discussions was happening, to accompany the person from there to his home. It was designated that they will not go alone. We used to also ensure that either they want to go alone or not. There's a lot of conversation that HR used to have with the counselors. Once a discussion has happened and the person has everything in his hand and he is moving out with his stuff, please understand that this emotional imbalances. Okay, how do you cater to if he wants to go back to his seat and see his seat once? Okay, he wants to pick up his own stuff, which probably employees create their own environment at their desk. If he wants to pick up those, these are very emotional and touchy moments. And are you standing with them as an HR? First, the conversation is led by the business. That is sacrosanct. The business says it, we only execute it. That's the point. And when this happens till the exit, and then the follow up with the counselors on what is happening, how many things are happening. Second, the follow up with the outplacement agency. What are you done doing with those 50 people? A weekly update and everything. So I think when you do this, you come out as more. You're not doing this for anything else. No, nowhere it comes out as a paper news. It comes out as like you cared for them, you were worried for them. For whatever reason, you cannot accommodate them. However, still you would do it. And it's not out of guilt, it's not out of thing, it's more of a sheer connection and sheer love that as a humanity we have. That's why I always said exit and follow, if managed with humanity and compassion, works out well. But if the moment you leave any of these, either humanity or compassion, then it becomes a tiring stuff. And more important part, people who went through this, who did these sessions with those employees, also went through a counseling session, whether it's an HR or a business, because to a larger extent we were also impacted. So that's the way. If you deal with it, I don't think so it will become, and this could be one of your best practice. My only submission was that let's not look at the money that is hitting the P&L, let's look at the humanity angle. That's where we looked at it holistically.
So this is a very holistic approach, like you mentioned, and it's a very thoughtful process to convey to the people in a proper way or proper manner. Like you said, that HRs are the executors; they are not the actual people who have decided on various parameters. Or this is the call from the business. So Nana, I've seen your expertise is into designing these parameters, then suggesting organizations towards diverse and inclusive environments, how they can inculcate it and how they can actually go about it. So, what are the things that a organization can do while deciding this? Like, many people decide this on the basis of the performance reviews or many other parameters. So, how this is exactly structured, basically, that organizations can think about. I'm asking Sunena because I have seen her work is into organizational behavior, that she helps
Yeah.
organizations into inculcating diverse and inclusive environment. But there has been certain scenarios I've seen that suppose if a person is underperforming, so in that case, what are the strategies or what are the things that these people will be addressed in a different way, or how we can inculcate in that condition? Suppose a women is there and she's after 6 months she's gonna go for an maternity leave. So are these parameters considered while taking these decisions, or how this will be? Means Kirti, you can also take up after Sunana, but I would like to understand what is her take into this, because this will be into a gender biasness also. It comes into that picture at that point of time.
Yeah, so see, honestly, when we design it, we try to be all inclusive. In fact, the practices that Kirti was describing, uh, even while layoff, so inclusion is not only when somebody is with you or while you are hiring people, it is also how you are, how the exit happens, as very rightly that she said. So when you design something, you definitely put these things into play. And that counseling, again, I'm repeating Kirti's point that she was talking about the exit strategy, that there is a counselor. So here, when you're talking about designing something for an organization, it is the business head, it is the manager who needs to be guided well. That if somebody is going on a maternity leave, what do you also, I would say it has really changed, or it is changing. If you see bigger organizations, um, people are less penalized now for going on a maternity leave. I am not saying it is eradicated, I am saying there has been a shift. um, Although it in a lot of organizations we do see those, the biases that you were talking about, they do come into play. After all, we're all working for profits. But the more the business heads, the managers are in sync, and the more it is an organizational culture, and we've been really talking about it, how your organization culture should be, right? Versus somebody being penalized for being from a certain group, and especially from a marginalized group, right? Like a historically marginalized group, if I may say so. So while designing, we definitely take care of these things, but designing something is one part of it. How it is being taken care of by a particular stakeholder in an organization is the other, wherein all of them have to come together. So again, going back to Kirti's example, if it is a certain decision, who's taking the decision, how is it being executed, what are the impacts going to be, etc., etc. And people need to be aware about all of these things. It is not just nothing can be a one day decision, right? And restructuring is not just say a layoff. It could also be bringing in very different kind of people in an organization, and then how do you manage that sort of workforce? So while designing, we have to keep a lot of stuff in mind, have our stakeholders on board with us, so that it can be executed well by the HR, or even at team levels.
Yeah, Kirti, you can also address this because this is from one point of view that employees have been like we do performance reviews. There are reviews which are quarterly, which may be yearly reviews, and based on that also, I think so the decisions can be taken. So, what is the take from here, from your point of view?
See, when you look at Pooja, when we look at as a layoff or as a furlough, first of all, we have to be very clear: are we doing a skill set based layoff, or we are doing a performance based layoff? You know, or you are doing a complete restructuring where this role does not exist in the organization anymore, or that function you are outsourcing. That is very big clarity that as an HR you have to push for. Okay, and it's a big deal, because technically if you look at from the business angle, layoff मुझे ये नहीं चाहिए तो निकाल दो, that's the terminology. But you have to push for and then bucket the layoff very clearly. That is your starting point. And then becomes the identification of those sets of people where you have either skill issue, the structure issue, or whether you have a performance issue. If there is a performance issue, then I as an individual will always ensure that these conversations cannot happen overnight. That today you didn't realize he's a non-performer. I'm sure if the person has been in the organization and and you as a manager are talking to him, you will have enough and more, and you would have that dose for which you have a performance management system, you have a PIP process. Please look at that. Okay, let's not mix that with this thing. That's A. B is like within the structure and the skill set, I think identify one of them. It is important because that conversation is a note that you will deliver to the person, not at a larger level. Okay, if you're shutting down a business, you will say you will shutting down a business. You will not say कि मैं structure change कर रहा हूँ. So that's the starting point. Second, whether it's a maternity or whether it's what, I think today people have become very, very cognizant of the laws that prevails in the land. Trust me, no employee thinks second time before they want to reach out to social media or whether they want to write to labor council or anywhere. They have full knowledge about it. Considering if you think you go to one of my ex company Starbucks, if you go there and ask the store guy who is making a coffee for you or serving a coffee, he would know the law of the land very well. Okay, so they are very aware of it. So it is important that when the communication has to be right, the due diligence process has to be right. If you're ethically right, then nothing can happen. If you're not ethically right, you will always have a sleepless night. So my only submission is be clear on what uh, message that you're providing as a part of layoff. That's it. Rest all follow the process with all the heart open, and be open to some bounce backs that will happen, but just be open about it, be prepared for these things. That's the way I would suggest. And just one point which I was, when you asked about the maternity, I don't think so now maternity is an excuse. It can be. I don't say if there are any monopoly run companies, it is. Any Lara run driven company, it is. देखिए 6 महीने चले जाएगी अभी क्या करेंगे? It is a problem. We are still in a dominated industries. Okay, it is a problem, but I think laws have become very strict with the reporting that you have to do in terms of maternity and the posh. It becomes very vigilant. However, it is just as a norm that is there. There are enough and more agencies which provides you a support for those 6 months, and comeback. A lot of organization has started off their comeback program, program and all, to fill the gaps around it. So I see the change happening. It's not an across the pocket, but largely it is changing, and we will reach there. So it's just people. See, I always tell my employees here also that जब तक बच्चा रोता नहीं है माँ भी दूध नहीं पिलाती. So till you cry, we don't give you anything. So you have to vouch for your rights. As an HR, I always tell them you have to vouch for your rights. Whatever is your right, you should talk for it. So that's where I feel the entire journey has to be.
Okay. So into this, like you said about the rights and laws, unless and until an employee that is being affected, they can they talk about it or they resist about it. The organization or the people who are sitting above them will not be able to understand what is their situation or what they are going through. So into this, Shreya, what would you address to the talent if suppose any talent or any employee is facing this kind of issues? So what can be their rights or what can be their needs that they can address to the management and how they can take up on this?
To add what Kirti said, of course we are changing. Of course, people know what the land laws are there, what labor laws are there, but it is also very important to see what the employee is suffering from, because what I am facing, Kirti, to be very frank, as a legal counsel, people are when a female is pregnant, okay, I am first called into the office premises. I am asked to talk to them, not about the maternity act, but about how things can be negotiated. Because they say that it is not possible for us to pay, 26 weeks. So can you just guide us in letting the female know that it is not possible for the company, so how negotiations can take place? So this is one of the very big challenge which I am facing right now, where I have to say that you need to follow the law no matter what if she goes and complains further, then it will be the company's name which will be at stake. Same applies with the posh act also, prevention of sexual harassment of women at workplace. When we say the internal committee has to be trained as an external member when I'm there, when the internal committee has to be trained in how to redress the complaints, that of sexual harassment or that of workplace harassment, there is a difference that we know. Uh, the company goes it goes one step behind in stating that do we really want to address these concerns of the female or not. So, of course, there are companies who are very apt in following all the labor laws compliances, being it maternity, being it posh, but there are still companies who are not following, and which is a concern. Which uh, and legislations like posh and maternity, they can run a company. They can also make sure that the company is not getting nicely operated. They can make a company or break a company. So these are the legislations which should be followed, which are there in favor of women or otherwise. When we talk about provident fund, when we talk about gratuity, um, there are consultants, there are companies who try to take midways, and they try to make कि नहीं इसको applicable नहीं है, इसको छोड़ दो ना, क्यों लाना है इसमें. uh, I just need to tell the audience over here that the government is watching. The IT and the labor laws have joined hands now. So when you say that I have paid salary to 50 people, and when I say that I am paying provident fund of only 2 to 3 people over here, then that is going to make an impact on a very large scale. So for the employees, I would say, please know your rights. As Kirti rightly said, know your rights. See, you have to ask for your own right. Of course, the HR, the legal persons will be there to negotiate with you, because at the end of the day, they have to listen to the management. They have to execute things. But if you are very confident that these are the laws and that you are eligible to get benefit under these kind of laws, then of course things can take place, and we will start working for a better labor force.
Okay. This is quite well said, Shreya, that the government is watching and there are certain laws that are in place that during such periods that will be helping us understand and navigate throughout the process. And what are the in this process there is a part wherein organizations or the HRs also help into redeployment or replacements also within the organizations, or maybe outside opportunities also, HRs help them with. So, what do you think, Kirti, in this regards? What are the best ways that HR or the organizations can help the people who have been laid off during this period?
See, I mentioned that earlier that when the employees who are laid off, uh, for first of all, if the reason is clear for the laid off and your process is clear in terms of giving that substantial support to them by finding a new job for them, getting there are enough and more good outplacement agency, getting them, work around with them, it works out very well. When it comes to, actually looking at from the angle that if it could be a DNI lens too, uh, then I think you have enough and more DNI uh, approach or processes in the organization that can governance around such issues happening. Your DNI approach has to right start from your own mindset. Is like, can I deploy a female in a sales role? Just example. Okay. Now, the moment first question in an example, a male is asking, where are you married? Is this the right question to ask? Okay. If the female says, yes, I'm married, how many years? That is a assumption that, okay, she'll go on maternity and he will reject it upfront. Ki, are 2 saal ho gaye, 3 saal now. So, it's a mindset. You will have to do a lot of um, socialization and change management in terms right at first start of the process where you intake a person. Second, when you manage that person through and throughout, every people go through a various change management in their life. When a woman conceived, that doesn't mean a man does not go through those changes. They also go through changes because of the spouse is conceived. When a child is born, now it's not, nowadays it's not one person's accountability. It's we all are matured and we take a joint accountability. So there is a change that is happening, but is again change happening at a very small stage. You know, uh, how strong at our level, and we as with the legal team and with the managers really push this agenda of thought process in their mind, that don't mix furlough exit with the DNI and these angle, because these are three separate. World is watching, people are watching. Don't become a news talk for them. So I think it is also about how right you want to do it. Today, why do everybody, if you say I want to join Tatas, everybody want to join Tatas because they have built that equity and they're taken care of. Okay. My sense is like once we are cognizant and we do a lot of work around it, uh, you know only thing is that we are moving too fast. मैंने she for work तो अभी solve नहीं किया, he she आ गया. So I think we are moving too fast on these agendas. We need to solve step by step. First, let's solve the she work and then go toward the he and she and the other. Because I think here is also a problem still exists. So my sense is more about how intervention as an HR you will bring in, more about how you will agenda. So there is an involvement. Just pick you've got the platter. Now you just take it and move forward.
Yeah, so Sunana, what would be your take as in diversity champion into this?
I would like to agree and disagree with Kirti. I think it depends completely on the organization, and we often, and I cannot tell you how Shreya said that there are organizations, although there is awareness. When I say awareness, that doesn't mean the mindset has shifted. There is a change where I agree with Kirti, but every now and then we read reports where people are facing a lot of issues because of conscious or unconscious bias. So, because we were talking about maternity leave, there are still questions being asked. Even if they're not asked, because now you know that you have the Porsche and you're being watched, but there is definitely those issues that are still brushed under the carpet. There are women feeling that they're not being promoted, okay, they are being paid, okay, they are there in the organization, but because they take that leave, they are not. So it's not that there is a lack of awareness. In the beginning also I said that people are talking about it, people know that it exists. Organizations are also, some of them I sometimes feel they're confused, they want to do everything and what Kirti said is very very important. When you want to do it everything together, that also creates a havoc. So what we one of the strategies that we always be a frozen layer, in our DEI parlance we call it the frozen layer, and let that be. Maybe that will take a longer time to sort of change, but then you identify the right people, like how you're identifying, it's a strategy to identify the people who have to be laid off, right? Similarly, who are these people who can be your champions of DEI? And these, see, HR, DEI, they are together but different. So how can you come together and build up those strategies, and in that sense identify those people who can help pushing these things forward, these all of these acts and everything that the organizations and even the government is trying to push to build in that equity, equality, and all those things, even justice, so many things, so many terms that we are adding up. So leave the frozen layer, it takes time to change them. There are these people who are willing to change, spot them, and move forward with them. And I think for the leaders, how they walk the talk, what kind of culture do they build is very very important.
Yeah, because the leaders are the one who will be noticed into this because they will be setting the examples. And during all the scenario that we are talking about, it always after certain kind of this restructuring process, there is an employer branding part which has been coming into picture very very much nowadays. If you see, according to the LinkedIn survey, around 83% people check out the employer brand before joining any company, or they read the reviews online while deciding to join the company, that how is the work culture, how is the company financial status and all that things. So Kirti, what do you think that how does this impact to the employer whenever this restructuring happens?
Uh, See, the restructuring, if it happens for good, which is for the good of the organization, and you're open about it, like in my past, when we did a restructuring, I think we were very open about it. We managed it with very sensitivity. So the employer brand never got impacted. Okay. We also went and open about it by ourselves. Okay, that we did this. So there were mixed comments, but each comments was addressed. There was a mixed review, each reviews were addressed. So it is all about the, how do you manage this in a very ethical manner. Employer brand will get impacted when you know that what you're doing is also wrong. Okay, so I think that was one of the shift that needs to get brought. Second shift is also you need to do a lot of, you need to from a HR you need to become a recruiter marketer. How do you start your conversation from there on, by being a marketer and looking at marketing your own stuff and organization in a manner that if there are some things that might pop up for those sets of people, then it is also get covered in a very different manner. Okay, it's also to manage very nicely and diplomatically the right. Okay. So employer branding, yes, plays a big and vital role. It might happen that you need to shift your employer. It might be a point that you have to now rethink of your employer brand. If I'm calling myself X company and I've done this, then is is the right time for me to change my employer brand? So I think these are the thoughts that should come out, and as HR, you need to own these thoughts and build on it as you move along. Build it more from the communication angle. The more and more you communicate through the process and experience, and when your own people talk about it, is what is you get. Okay, let it not be a talk, but it's more of a felt factor. So if your own employees feel it, don't worry about it, you have already cracked the code. If your employees are not feeling good about it, then no matter how much employer branding I will do, no matter how much communication I'll do, it will always backfire. Okay. Today employees are very well connected to various other talent in the market. So I think to sum it up, A is to first think, is this a moment for me to shift my employer or change my employer brand? Then what is the communication? What change needs to come? Or if you feel no, it is not the time to shift or change the employer brand, it's more about to openly communicate what went wrong, what went happen, how, why did we did what we did, and have this town hall with your own employees and tell them and own it at a larger level, rather than make it an HR activity. It is the right trust factor that you're building. The third thing is about take care of them after that. वो टाउन हॉल हो गया, हमने बोल दिया, खत्म हो गया. So just do that in your actions. Action speaks louder than words. So just do your actions and make them feel about it. So that's, if you do it, it's well taken care of. Your people will talk about yourself. That's it. I'm a firm believer that my people should talk about my company. I should not talk. If they talk, I've done my job, and my aim is to make HR redundant in the company.
Like Kirti, you said about the ethical part of this process. There is a communication ethics that needs to be followed while treating your employees with respect, or providing them with fair compensations, or offering them support during these situations. So, Shreya, my next question is to you. Like, how can one balance legal obligations with ethics?
So when we say ethics, I guess I feel ethics also comes into picture when the company is ethical enough in following all the labor laws and the employment laws which are prevailing in the country, because that is in itself is a part of ethics, that you are being very much in the chapters of labor laws and you're not unfollowing them. So so they're again talking about the posh and the maternity act also, because they talk first about ethics and then comes the law into picture, because these were the acts which have brought into picture because of the ethics a person should be having, and for the maternity, what a mother goes during that period, and she should be given that particular leave. So these two basically were the acts which were part of that. Same goes with the PF, where you save money for after your retirement. Same goes with the gratuity. So these are beneficial laws which are ethical. Employers have to adhere to these laws no matter what, which are based on ethics. So there are various companies still who do not follow the acts. The woman, as I said previously, again, that she is actually given instructions to please resign, and we'll make sure that that you are taken back on the same position, and the some kind of negotiations are done with her that we'll be giving only 3 months salary to you because it won't be possible for us. Um, and again, we need to check what is the legal framework in which one person is coming onto. As I said, a managerial person, what his contracts are. A non-managerial person, what is signed with him. Is he signed contracts has he signed contracts according to the state laws and the center laws, because both of them vary. Then again, the employee consultation and engagement parts, has it done or not done. The induction process, is it because law does not give you a proper induction process ki induction process aisa hona chahiye, वैसा होना चाहिए. But it comes on to the ethics part when we are telling the person who's coming in कि we are just not giving him a set of documents like you need to sign this. You need to make sure that the person has understood what he is signing it. That is a big part of ethics, is what I feel, the induction part. At the same time, when he's going out, the exit interview, what we said, the exit, how it is done. Is it done ethically with laws? Has he been told what he has been signing post termination, or post termination of his employment? So I think balancing between legal and ethical part, and as I said, ethics includes in itself following all the labor laws and the employment laws. I think it will make a great impact to an organization.
Thank you so much, Shreya. I would like to thank all the speakers because we are towards the end of the session right now. So, before we quickly wrap up the session, I would like to address our attendees. If any of you have any questions to be asked to our panelists, or they want to interact or say something, they can just raise their hands, and we'll just let you into the conversation then. Just a second, Vipul. I'm just allowing you. Yeah, please. You can go ahead, Vipul.
Uh, is it- so thanks all.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining the conversation, ma'ams. First of all, very good afternoon to you all. I work with the company, so this company itself, she works, Gotham. And my question is that everyone has talked about how the process should be, how the legal obligations should be, how the preference should be given to the women and men's, both the things. But I have observed with my experience in the past that many companies, especially startups as well as the mid-scale companies, are not following this SOPs what the leaders told us today. I have seen the companies giving when it comes to the non-performance, if they realize that the person is non-performer, they are not following the PIP process improvement plan. They are not giving warnings. They straight away go for action, which means kick that person out from the system with 1 day notice. They are not providing salaries on time. They are not giving. There is the SOP already designed in the company that anything should be happening like this. The person should be given in PIP or the 2 months notice, 1 month notice, or the 3 months notice, depending upon the person's tenurity, whether the person is in probation or whether the person is a permanent employee. They just directly go for 1 day exit without thinking about the person, that might that person has taken loan, other responsibility that person has, which can be resolved with that salary. Or else, yeah, ma'am already said that the company takes cost burn on their side towards providing that person a job. But this is, I have seen, I, as per my experience, I have not seen this company, many of the companies taking initiatives. Might be they are client-centric companies or the employee-centric companies. So these things normally happens with the client-centric companies. They when they are facing clients, they just need persons.
So,
So I need a
Vipul, as we have the crunch of time, I would
so
like to hand this topic over
yeah,
to the speakers.
no
That
problem,
what
no
do you
problem, no
want?
problem. So my question is that what is the solution for this? I mean, do we need proper HR training, the just-in-time concept where the right person should be fit at the right place, doing the right thing and for the right purpose, or what exactly we can do to solve this problem also? Because this is I have seen in many companies and with many employees.
Yeah. Sunana, you can, if you could just address, after Sunana, even Kirti and Shreya, you both can address his query, then it would be great interaction.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. I think Shreya was trying to say something. Uh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's okay, Sunana. You can go on. I'll just add. Yeah.
yeah. So, see, we have a time limit, so I will just keep it very simple. Um, I think when you start a company, since you mentioned startups or any, if whatever company is it, your what is the first thing that you do? Your vision, your mission, your goal, your ethics. You set those things. If your organizational culture is of laying off people like this, um, we just talked about the employer branding, right? So yes, people need jobs, but I think people are also aware, very aware of what kind of work they want to do. I think that has been a huge shift. And although the startup culture has been huge, we are looking at what sort of, there have been some good startups as well, right? So I think it totally depends on what the leadership wants, how they want to um, project themselves, what kind of employer brand that they want to be, especially in this very very aware sort of world, that is connected with social media. From the DEI perspective, I know what you're saying, because we do get these kind of issues every now and then. From the HR point of view, how it is to be addressed, I think Kirti, or from the legal point of view, um, I think one of the panelists, co-panelists, made that statement that, see, it is mindset. Is it, are you only thinking profit, but or are you thinking about that sustainability, the longevity, and all of those things that come into play when you start. You do not, after 10 years, you don't change these things. The culture is set in your organization. It's very hard to change it then. Maybe the others want to add.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, talking about ahead with what Sunana said, Vipul, you need to make sure that the company is following. I know it is not in your hands in your, as an employee, that are the laws being followed or not, because as I said, labor laws is actually in more in favor of the employees and than that of the employers. We rightly said the notice periods, which act you come as an employee, like do you come as a managerial person. I'm saying these things again and again. Why? Because the laws are very much different for each and every person. Okay, if I am an office admin, if I am an office boy who is just giving you, serving you tea every day, I am governed under the different law. As and maybe you're a Vipul, you are at a managerial position, and you will be governed totally by a different law. Both the people cannot sign the same contract. Okay, because you have your own position, he is having his own position, he will be merely an employee but you will be a manager. So you need to make sure that what are your rights. Okay, rights as mujhe kitna notice period milna chahiye, as an employee what I should be doing if I am sexually harassed. These are as a man, okay, not as a woman. If we are saying pause is for women, then what for men? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, please go on.
Yeah, so as a man, you should be knowing what are my rights. Okay, so there are different aspects which are mentioned quite specifically in the law. And being, if the person, if the company is ethically sound, I feel the company will not आगे पीछे नहीं देखेंगी to follow all the labor laws which are prevailing.
Kirti, we would love to hear from you. A very short ending note about this. I think so. You're on mute, Kirti.
sorry, remember, just sum it in two ways. One is, remember, we are termed as human resource, so there is a human angle always that we carry. So whether consciously, unconsciously, people think we are humans. So we have to have these conversations, these things in very humanly angle. It's not a pleasant one. Second, uh, whenever you have these tough decisions to take, or you have tough time where you are juggling between process, people, and seniority, take the call that is what is your heart and mind says to do it with, along with all the books. Have your own thought process clear. Once I feel the thought processes are clear, you will be able to nail it right. Remember, you have the power of being an HR. You are not a person who's a doer, who's also a governor and a believer. So believe that, dream that, and make it happen. That's the only thing people wants from you. That's it. Even if you're doing layoff, do it nicely, do it gently, do it with full pride. Okay, it is nothing to that, you're not doing anything wrong. Okay, if you're doing some exit, even for integrity, do it with that gentleness, empathy. So I would suggest, be empathetic, things will fall in place. If you're not empathetic yourself, you're diluting the process, then I can't help it, no matter how many such conversations we do.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Kirti. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I would like to thank all the distinguished speakers for sharing their valuable insights with us today and educating us on the various aspects of the topic that we were talking about today. And thank you, all the attendees, for joining us. And stay tuned. We will be sharing the recordings of the sessions with all of you so that you can understand more about the topic that we discussed today, even if you have joined late into the session. So, thank you, everyone. And on this note, I would like to say goodbye to all of you and see you
Thank
next
you.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kirti. Thank you, Sunena. See you soon. Thank you, Pooja.
Thanks. Thanks. Bye, Shreya and Pooja and Sunana.